Welcome everyone to Things Around 8. Dear friends, in this video we will talk about the West's concern about Vladimir Putin's alliance with North Korea. It is yet another sign of his rapprochement with Kim Jong-un. The visit will take place today, and if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any news. It will be the Kremlin chief's first visit to North Korean territory in 24 years. We have already seen a series of international demonstrations regarding this meeting. For example, the White House expressed concern about this alignment between Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, and it is a partnership that we have seen growing since the Russian invasion of Ukrainian territory. We have seen, since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, a very close relationship between Russia and some countries that are very isolated by the West, as is happening with the Russians themselves after the beginning of this war. So they have much stronger relations, for example, with Iran at the moment and with North Korea. This union, this strong rapprochement between the Russians and the North Koreans is particularly worrying for the West. They are the two countries facing the most international sanctions at the moment. Russia is the leader and North Korea is the second most sanctioned. This is because, in the case of North Korea, they are developing nuclear weapons and have already carried out some tests with them, which worries the West a lot. In the case of Russia, obviously, because of the war in Ukraine. But this rapprochement between the two is a temporary rapprochement that can, obviously, be consolidated into a long-term alliance, which is definitely more worrying for the European Union, the United States, Japan, and South Korea, which feel directly threatened there in Asia. And why is this rapprochement happening? First of all, this issue of sanctions. They can negotiate among themselves, because it is much more difficult to negotiate with the West. Secondly, the Russians have a lot to offer the North Koreans that can also offer some benefits to the Russians. The Russians are especially interested in buying weapons from the North Koreans. According to South Korean intelligence, they have already sold more than 5 million artillery shells to the Russians, which are being used in the war in Ukraine. In return, the Kremlin, President Putin, can offer fuel, food and military technology to the North Koreans, which is very worrying to the West. And finally, they have common enemies at the moment. The West, the European Union, especially the United States. So, the two countries are trying to create these stronger ties. Kim Jong-un visited Russia, Vladivostok, in the far east of Russia, at the end of last year. He visited military installations and now President Putin is making a return visit after 24 years. One last piece of information, which also worries the West a lot, is that the North Korean press, which is completely controlled by the communist dictatorship of Kim Jong-un, published an open letter from President Putin, in which he says that both Russia and North Korea will develop alternative mechanisms for trade and mutual agreements that are not controlled by the West. He said that unilateral restrictions are illegitimate, both for North Korea and South Korea, and the most worrying part is that at the same time, we, Russia and North Korea, will build an equal and indivisible security architecture in Eurasia. In other words, he is clearly talking about a military alliance between these two countries that are isolated at the moment, and that pose a great risk to other countries in Asia. Not because of that, but because of that we have this global concern. The West is keeping an eye on this moment, this meeting. Vladimir Putin is visiting North Korea today. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and click on the notification bell so you don't miss any news.